Chapter 25 to 27. Krillin's unique technique. The Destructo Disc might not be of much use against an overwhelmingly powerful opponent if used in a frontal clash. However, Broly's fighting style was rudimentary, devoid of strategy or thought. Perhaps the Destructo Disc could inflict some damage on him. After all, a rampaging Saiyan like Broly wouldn't dodge such an attack. As expected, Broly charged towards Goten at full speed, showing no intention of avoiding the Destructo Disc. Just as the Destructo Disc was about to hit him, Broly let out a sudden roar. With his roar, the vibrant green aura around his body surged, abruptly blocking the Destructo Disc with the aura flames around him and leaving Goten in utter surprise. The Destructo Disc was well known for its ability to cause real damage, but it was blocked by Broly's aura flames. Crack! Just as Goten was reeling in surprise, a crisp sound echoed as cracks appeared on the 10 pieces of the Destructo Disc. In the blink of an eye, it disintegrated into golden starlight and disappeared. Unfazed, Broly continued his charge towards Goten. His attack was straightforward. When he jabbed, Goten quickly raised his arms to block. The moment he was hit, he felt as if he was bludgeoned by a massive hammer instantly. A tingling sensation spread through both his arms, and his body retreated uncontrollably. His feet scraped against the ground, and he retreated 100 feet before stopping. Broly flipped his palm, and a vibrant green energy instantly condensed. He then hurled it directly at Goten. The moment the energy ball was released, it split into a dozen smaller energy balls, resembling a shotgun blast. Goten didn't dare to slack off in the slightest. He jumped up, and the ground exploded almost simultaneously. Rumble, countless craters formed again. It looks like I will have to compete head-on with this guy, Goten thought, his face extremely serious. If I draw out the fight for too long, I won't be able to beat Broly at all. A protracted war might be a good tactic against an ordinary person, but against Broly, it would only lead to a passive situation. Broly's strength would continue to increase as the battle progressed, and his energy would continue to improve. It was equivalent to a continuous increase in strength during the battle. Fighting a protracted battle with such a guy was no different from courting death. It had to be done quickly. If the Super Saiyan 2 form couldn't defeat Broly, then Goten would have to use Ultra Instinct to completely destroy Broly. After all, his ultimate goal was to acquire Broly's super bloodline. As for what methods he used to win the battle to get the bloodline, it didn't matter to him. What mattered most was survival. His goal was to become stronger and surpass those who were truly strong. Just as Goten was deep in thought, a massive green energy ball condensed from Broly's chest and blasted directly at him. Goten's body flashed again, and he dodged it easily. Broly's strength was indeed formidable, and the power of the energy ball was also impressive. But Broly, who was in a rampage state, had no battle finesse at all, and his attacks were very straightforward. Therefore, with proper calculations, it was easily avoidable, making it difficult to hit. Especially Goten, whose strength had reached the middle stage of Super Saiyan II's second stage, was not slow at all. Meanwhile, on King Kai's planet, Goku and the others looked very nervous. All of them frowned, clenched their fists, and watched the battle with the help of King Kai. That Broly's temper is so irritable and violent, Piccolo quickly gave an accurate judgment. And it seems that with the passage of time, his ki is constantly expanding. This guy is completely different from you guys. After Goku and Vegeta became Super Saiyan, their stamina and energy would be consumed quickly. Because Super Saiyan itself was a transformation that consumed a lot of physical energy unless fully mastered. But this Saiyan named Broly seemed to be completely different from them. This guy's energy was constantly expanding, and the speed was very fast. If this continued, Goten was likely to be killed by Broly. Indeed, I feel it too. Goku also nodded solemnly. It's really unexpected that such a monstrous Saiyan still exists in the world. But now he was a dead person, and the dead couldn't intervene in the affairs of the living realm at all. So at this moment, he could only be anxious. Come on, Goten. Gohan cheered for Goten. You must win. You are the last warrior on Earth. Goten was the last Saiyan warrior on Earth. If even he died, it would be disastrous. If there were other crises on Earth in the future. You guys are too worried. King Kai spoke seriously from the side, seeing everyone with serious faces. Although judging from the current situation, there is indeed a big gap between Goten's strength and that of Broly. But don't forget, 2 months ago, Cell's strength was also higher than Goten's. Goten still killed him in seconds. And let me tell you that when Goten killed Cell, the aura of a god suddenly burst out from his body, which is a power that mortals have never mastered so far. It was not that he wanted to appease everyone's emotions. What he said was true. When Goten was fighting Cell 2 months ago, the moment Goten killed Cell in seconds, his body really burst out with the aura of God. It was just that ordinary people couldn't sense it at all. At that moment, Goten was destined to be extraordinary. The power of God. Goten, how is it possible? Goku asked, surprised. Stop joking. How can Saiyan master the power of a god? Not to mention that kid Goten, who doesn't have any master. Kyusama, is what you said true? Everyone was extremely surprised. If King Kai hadn't lied to them, then there was a vast gap between them and Goten. These people had a very vague concept of the power of gods. To them, being able to kill the super perfect form Cell in an instant meant that the power of that god is very powerful. Goten had made up his mind to confront Broly head-on after the battle with Cell. He had taken 4 more Senzu beans from Immortal Korin. Even if he were to be seriously injured, as long as he didn't die, he could recover immediately. He wanted to take advantage of the Saiyan Zenkai ability to gain powerful strength after recovering from a near-death state. His energy is constantly expanding. Goten noted as Broly released the energy ball. He felt the ki in Broly's body begin to expand rapidly again, causing even the muscles all over his body to tremble. He noticed that even though Broly was able to stay rational in his transformed state, he was becoming more irritable and bloodthirsty. Roar! Broly roared again as the energy in his body continued to expand. A powerful aura was released from his body instantly. A huge, vibrant green energy barrier was directly formed around his body, and then countless energy balls were released from the green barrier. Rumble, boom, boom, boom. Wherever the energy ball went, it caused complete destruction. At this time, the entire planet had long been crumbling. It seemed that every passing second, there was a possibility of complete destruction. Goten deftly avoided all energy balls. In the next second, with an extremely fast dodge, he appeared in front of Broly. The battle starts now, Broly Goten declared with an extremely serious face. Until now, he had just been dodging Broly's attack blindly, so it wasn't a fight at all. The real battle was about to begin. Battle, mohahaha. Broly laughed maniacally. Trash. You think you would be able to fight with me just because you want to? In my eyes, you're nothing more than an insignificant insect. Broly grinned suddenly, his blank white eyes full of disdain. In his eyes, Goten was just a poor little bug, a piece of trash that he didn't need to pay attention at all, one that could be crushed to death at will. But since this kid was Kokrat's son, He must not be allowed to die so easily. He wanted to vent all the anger against cked he had harbored for decades on his son. "Yeah," Goten shot back. "Funny, because from where I'm standing, you're nothing but a mindless brute, a pitiful excuse for a warrior." Goten also raised a sneer at the corner of his mouth and said to Broly, although when watching the movie version, he knew that Broly was rational after being transformed into legendary Super Saiyan, but he was a little surprised that this guy was able to say these words. After all, he didn't think that he would communicate much after the transformation. Broly chuckled darkly at Son Goten's words. Then he continued, "You and your father Kakarot, both weaklings, both repulsive. As a reward, I'll let you taste the terror that only a true Saiyan can bring." After Broly's crazy voice fell, he flashed out, and his massive frame resembling a juggernaut. He left a trail of destruction on the ground that passed by. His body also appeared in front of Goten like a ghost. Although this guy was big, it didn't affect his speed at all. It was astonishingly fast. He arrived almost in the blink of an eye. After appearing in front of Goten, Broly threw an uppercut. Goten clasped his hands quickly, blocking Broly's attack. The moment his body was lifted in the air, his right knee hit Broly's chin heavily. A blow with full strength only made Broly's head slightly tilted back. Is this guy's body so strong? Goten wondered. His body stopped in mid-air, his face full of disbelief. I hit with all my strength, but it just made him tilt his head back. Although he knew that as a legendary Super Saiyan, Broly must be strong, but he didn't expect it to be so outrageous. With all his strength, he couldn't beat him back. Although he had long thought that this guy might be ridiculously strong, but this kind of resilience was a bit too ridiculous. Broly pursed his lips at this point. Then he raised his head and glanced at Goten. His eyes were full of disdain. "Hey, is this your strength?" Sure enough, it's as weak as I imagined. That kind of eyes and lip-licking movements were like a demon rushing out of hell. Just standing there could make many people shudder. This was the feeling of oppression, and only Broly in front of him could give this feeling of oppression. The DB's version of Broly simply didn't have that demonic feel. Goten didn't say much, but started to explode again, and the blue lightning around his body crackled and flickered like a small snake. The golden aura round the body was also more turbulent. After raising his energy, Goten flashed out again. A punch hit Broly's chest directly and heavily. Boom, a muffled crash sounded, but Broly remained motionless. Still, with a malicious grin on the corner of his mouth, he looked down at Goten like a god of war returning from hell. Hehe, is this all? Trash. Broly's disdainful laughter sounded again. In the next second, Broly made a lightning-quick move and grabbed Goten. Then he slammed him to the ground and dragged him all the way. The ground was instantly plowed into a trench several tens of feet long. The black martial arts uniform on Goten's body also became tattered in an instant. Then Broly threw Goten's body into the air and raised his hand to shoot a precise palm cannon. Boom! A cloud of black smoke suddenly exploded in the sky, and Goten's body was also blown out of the black smoke. There was still a long tail of black smoke trailing behind. Then his body was heavily embedded in the mountain peak hundreds of meters away. There were wounds of varying degrees on his body, and blood was overflowing from the corner of his mouth. After standing up again, Goten's eyes were still extremely firm, and there was a little bit of excitement. The legendary Super Saiyan bloodline was really too strong. If he could acquire it, he could definitely use Ultra Instinct Sign for a long time without having to worry about physical requirements. Rip, he tore off the tattered martial arts uniform on his body. Looks like I have to use the Ultra Instinct. If I keep fighting with this guy, I'm afraid that my body will not be able to handle the Ultra Instinct state later on. Goten quickly made up his mind. Although the Broly in front of him was not as terrifying as the DB's Broly, the growth of his ki was rising in a straight line, which was ridiculously fast. If he continued to entangle like this, then the situation could quickly spiral out of control. Broly, I concede that your strength is indeed formidable, Goten admitted, his tone serious. The power of your mutated bloodline is stronger than I had imagined. If I were to rely solely on the power of Super Saiyan, I would indeed be no match for you. The gap between us is vast. However, I am determined to defeat you as swiftly as possible. Goten had made up his mind to use Ultra Instinct. His current Super Saiyan 2 form was simply not enough to defeat Broly. Even if he were to break through to Super Saiyan 3 at a critical moment, he might not necessarily be able to defeat Broly. Moreover, Broly's strength would only continue to grow as the battle progressed. To prevent any accidents, this battle had to end. If one were to consider Broly from the Dragon Ball Super movie, it might be possible to befriend him. However, this Broly, once he went berserk, was completely uncontrollable. As he himself had stated, the Broly standing before Goten was indeed a true demon. How could a true demon befriend humans? The only option was to completely eliminate Broly to prevent future troubles. Trash. Broly scoffed at Goten's words. Just because you want to defeat me, you think you can do it. He had already fully gauged Goten's power. Even if Goten were to increase his strength tenfold, it would be absolutely impossible for him to defeat Broly. This was nothing more than a fool's dream. He could feel the aura in his body beginning to surge wildly again. Goten did not continue speaking. Instead, he directly took out a Senzu bean and consumed it, swiftly recovering his physical strength. The injuries on his body healed completely in an instant. Then, he closed his eyes slightly and exited the transformation form of Super Saiyan, he let out a long breath. Once again, silver lines radiated around his entire body, and his aura became completely undetectable. Meanwhile, on King Kai's planet, Goku and Vegeta were once again taken aback. Goten's aura had completely disappeared. Even through King Kai's help, they could not sense Goten's at all. Goten's aura is gone again, Goku exclaimed. It looks like he's going to use the form that defeated Cell earlier. Because they didn't know what it was, they could only refer to it as the form. In their understanding, it might be a form similar to Super Saiyan, but it seemed to be much stronger than Super Saiyan. This divine aura, King Kai's chubby body trembled. This time, the divine aura released by Goten is even stronger. The powerful divine aura emanating from Goten's body made him feel very oppressed. This was definitely a power that could only be mastered by a powerful god. As a mere North Kai, he naturally felt a sense of oppression. The Broly that Goten is facing now seems to be much stronger than the Cell from back then. Gohan voiced his concern. After all, Goten was the last Saiyan warrior on Earth. If something were to happen to him, the future of the Earth could be in jeopardy. You don't have to worry, King Kai reassured them. Although that Broly is indeed a monstrous existence, even if it's a few of you, you may not be able to defeat him. But Goten would be absolutely fine. Seeing everyone's worried expressions, King Kai spoke confidently. Only he could feel the immense divine aura in Goten's body, so he knew very well how powerful Goten was now. It seems that Goten has mastered a super ability, Goku said, a smile spreading across his face. He tilde. Speaking of it, I have the urge to fight Goten. Although they had stayed together after death, Vegeta had never been his opponent, and Gohan couldn't stimulate the powerful fighting talent in his body without immense pressure. So these 8 years of training had made his strength completely surpass the others. Although they often trained together, he had absolutely no urge to fight with them. At this time, Goten and Broly made Goku quite excited. Unfortunately, he was now a dead man. There was no way to spar against Goten and Broly. On the other side, the silver lines around Goten's body became denser and denser. Broly looked at Goten suspiciously. He could feel that Goten's aura had completely disappeared in an instant. He had also exited the Super Saiyan transformation, and Broly didn't know what this kid was planning. But he didn't care at all, because no matter what Goten was doing, he would eventually die at his hands. "Hey, Broly sneered, his teeth gritted and a bloodthirsty smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. Without warning, he lunged towards Goten, his body a blur of motion. Swish, with a swift punch, the sheer force seemed to warp the space around them in an instant. Goten, however, remained still, his eyes closed. Yet, it was as if his entire body had sprouted eyes. For the moment, Broly's fist came hurtling towards him. Goten moved slightly and effortlessly dodged Broly's attack. Giggle, Broly chuckled, seemingly amused that his attack had been so easily evaded. Undeterred, he gritted his teeth and launched a barrage of punches towards Goten. Swish, swish, swish. The sound of air being sliced echoed around them, creating ripples in the air. Yet, despite the hundreds of attacks, not a single one managed to land on Goten. Then, in the next second, Goten's eyes snapped open. A flash of silver light sparked in his pupils, and immediately after, the silver aura around his body shimmered. His hair moved as if caught in an unseen breeze. His expression remained calm, and his mood did not waver in the slightest. Huh. Broly froze, clearly taken aback as he saw Goten's entire body suddenly radiating with a silver aura. But Goten didn't intend to give him time to be surprised.